Hello, my name is Anthony Keller, and I'm that deacon on YouTube. Happy 2016. Here we start a new year on That Deacon on YouTube. We transformed our Christmas tree, which used to be in front of our Dragon's thrift store, into a tree of peace. I wasn't sure how this was going to work out. We did get some support from the city, and it was in a few newspapers. And lo and behold, the tree was filled with ribbons. Here's a picture of the tree. I bought, all totaled, about 8 rolls of ribbons. And when we started to remove the ribbons after Epiphany, and we removed the box that held the ribbons for people to pick them up and attach them to the tree, there was only 1 ribbon left. So I'd like to thank the individuals who were a part of this program throughout the outlining areas of La Cañada, who really showed their hope and prayers for peace in 2016. Bravo! Thank you very much for your support. I've always wanted to do a segment in this vlog where every once in a while I would ask people to ask me questions. It could be about my personal life, it could be about my life as a deacon in the church, could be about the Episcopal Church, it might be about the Bible. Well, any reasonable question I would be willing to answer. Well, with all that happened at Canterbury in England this week, people wanted to know what my view is. So the first person who asked that question was Marilyn from Episcopalians on Facebook. So I guess I'll give you my take. I found it interesting that at this meeting that took place in Canterbury, they had on display the original bishop's staff of Augustine. And the whole idea of missionary work is to bring the faith out in the world. Now remember that, faith out in the world. So what happened last week was chief bishops, known as primates, I'm only going to use that term once because it's so archaic. Let's just say chief bishops of all 38 provinces within the Anglican Communion met at Canterbury Cathedral at the invitation of Justin Welby, the current Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, the Anglican Communion is a loose conglomerate of churches throughout the world. Each church in a province is independent. It is autonomous. They all have their own governance, and they all have their own way of doing things. So Canterbury really is not like the Bishop of Rome. He is the first among equals. And they probably hold this status because all of these churches grew out of the Church of England. So last summer, where we elected our presiding bishop, which is the chief bishop of the Episcopal Church at our national convention, the church decided as a body to embrace marriage equality. We have been doing work for over 40 years on human sexuality and how the church should respond. And finally, after many years of study, reflection, biblical papers, theological reflection, we have looked at human sexuality from every viewpoint. Our national church decided to embrace GLBTQ people in a way that would affirm their lives. So marriages now with same-sex couples can be blessed. We recognize that marriage is a state function. When a clergy person marries a couple, they are acting as agents of the state. But the big point in a marriage is that the marriage is blessed by the community of faith that holds them up to suggest that they too will support this union and have them be a part of the entire weaving fabric of the church. Well, apparently, and rightly so, there are other provinces within the Anglican Communion that have trouble with this language and this theology. And it's been a point of soreness ever since Bishop Gene Robinson was elected as the Bishop of New Hampshire, an openly homosexual clergy person. This week, the Episcopal Church was admonished by the 38 provinces for upholding the equality of individuals. So for 3 years, we will not be allowed to take part in certain ecumenical committees within the Anglican Communion. And we will not have a vote at various meetings. We will still have a voice, but we will not be allowed to vote. Now, when it comes to voting, the Anglican Communion, the Anglican Consultative Council, even the Lambeth gathering of all the bishops within the Anglican Communion has no authority. They have no legal authority. They have no judicial authority. They have no theological authority. The main reason that they have these bodies is for people to carry on a conversation. That's it. We are still a part of that conversation. But when they decide to pretend that they are a legislative body, and I mean pretend they are a legislative body, we will have no vote. So be it. There have been various statements from around the Episcopal Church regarding the gathering at Canterbury this week. But I would suggest that you go to the Episcopal News Service and check statements made by our own presiding bishop, Michael Curry, who was in attendance at the meeting. He has a written statement and also a video, and he gives a wonderful response. Because he was the person there taking the heat for all of us. But now I'd like to move on to my take about what happened. The process of this meeting began with me talking about the staff of Augustine, the first Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, the idea of this staff is to be the face of faith out in the world. Augustine was sent by the Pope, I believe Pope Gregory the Great, to bring the church in Rome to England. And that meant being out amongst the people, to be the face of Christ to all people who had not yet been introduced to the faith. Last week at Canterbury, I saw the opposite. I saw and read about a group of 38 bishops who locked themselves into a building, who were told to leave their cell phones at the door. I believe they were confiscated from all the bishops so that no leaks could get out. My good friends, this meeting in Canterbury shows the problems when an institution looks in at itself when it should be looking out to the world. When any institution looks only in at itself, is only concerned with its inward structure, the outward structure is going to vanish and fail. And we're seeing this right now in the Church of England. You have a parliament that has already allowed same-sex couples to marry for recognition in the state as law. And you have a church that in England is the national church, closing itself off to humanity for whatever reason they feel is true. But I think they're more afraid to embrace love and to embrace the prophetic message of Christ, and more concerned about saving their butts within the institution that they have created, within their hierarchy, and their close-knit doctrine that is more about self-perpetuation rather than serving the people that they have been deemed responsible for. So let this be a lesson to any of us, whether it be a company, a church, a nonprofit, a club. Whenever a group of people is more concerned inwardly, the outward will fail. So I ask you, look at your own church, if you are part of a church. Is your church only looking inward when in reality they should be looking outward? Start to discern that question, because if your church is only looking inward, it will die eventually. I think it's our call to be prophets. I think it's our call to open our arms to people, to say, we embrace you. We embrace you wholeheartedly, because we believe that our human qualities, as frail as they are upheld in God's grace. We support you to be fully human, to reveal the glory of God. Well, that's it. Next month, I'll be taking you to Descanso Gardens and introducing you to a weekly ministry I hold entitled Thoughtful Walking. Sound intriguing? Well, that's all I'm going to say about it now. So see you next month. See you next month at Descanso Gardens. Until then, God bless and bye-bye.